Shenmue, released in 1999 in Japan and 2000 in the US and Europe, was more than just a game. It was an experience, and let me tell you right now, if you were lucky enough to have a Dreamcast, you were in for one of the most unique gaming experiences of your life. Now, according to my analytics, a lot of you weren't even born yet when the Dreamcast was released, but let's be honest, who even owned a Dreamcast in the first place? It's one of the weirdest consoles I've ever seen, and it's not like we were starved for video games back in the year 2000. Games like Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2, Diablo 2, Perfect Dark, all released around the same time, so it's completely fair enough if you missed out on a game like Shenmue. Yet somehow, with its limited release of both Shenmue 1 and 2, and the third title needing to be crowdfunded on Kickstarter, this game is widely known about and has garnered a huge cult following. Shenmue 1 cost anywhere from 47 to 70 million USD at the time and was one of the most expensive games ever created. And sadly, neither Shenmue 1 or 2 returned a profit. However, Shenmue reviewed incredibly well, scoring an 88 out of 100 on Metacritic. The series has received praise for its graphics, soundtrack, realism, and ambition. And others have called it mundane, which is very fair enough. I mean, I spent hours at these little toy machines, spending all of my yen just to get duplicates. So will I become part of that cult following that truly loves this game? Or will I turn my back on Shenmue forever? At its core, Shenmue is a revenge story. Ryo Hazuki isn't your average high school student. He's tough, brooding, and if we're being completely honest, he has the personality of a cardboard box. But what really sets him apart from the rest is that he's on a revenge mission against a man named Lan Di, who, spoiler alert, killed our father in cold blood right in front of our very eyes. But not only that, he then has the goal to steal from us by stealing a rare artifact known as the Dragon Mirror. Lan Di comes to our house, kills our dad, and then just leaves, and we don't get to see him again the whole game. And at its essence, that's pretty much what the whole game is. We spend every minute of the game asking, do you know where Lan Di is? Do you know where Lan Di is? Do you know where Lan Di is? Hey Tom, do you know where Lan Di is? Ini-san, who is our housekeeper, who I honestly thought was our grandmother until I was writing the script for this review, and Fuku-san, our best friend, I guess, he sort of lives with us for some reason, they try to convince Ryu to just sort of drop it. Forget the fact that your father was killed in front of your very face, giving you trauma for the rest of your life. But Ryo, he's stubborn, and he will stop at nothing to get his revenge. Except stopping at these capsule machines. It's very important. I know our father is dead, but we must stop and try to get the special Sonic capsule toy. Ryo's first clue is a car that some of his neighbors spotted on the day of the murder. Ryo starts asking everyone and their dog for information. Slowly but surely he uncovers that Lan Di is off to Hong Kong. And at this stage of the story, honestly, I'm starting to feel a bit like Batman. Where is he? Do you know where Lan Di is? Ryo then heads to a little shop called Asia Travel Company to buy a ticket to Hong Kong, a boat ticket, because he can't afford the return trip via flight. But plot twist, Ryo gets scammed. There was never gonna be a ticket via boat to Hong Kong. And what makes it worse is that our best friend Fuku-san smashes open his little piggy bank to give us the money to afford the ticket. Come on, Ryo. At least ask for a receipt next time. Just when Ryo's about to throw in the towel, a letter lands in his hands. This mysterious letter suggests we can get help from a certain Master Chen who has a warehouse at the harbour. Through Chen and his son Guizhang, who honestly could rival Ryo himself for best dressed, Ryo learns that the local gang, the Mad Angels, are involved with Lan Di's crime syndicate, the Chi Yu Men. But just wait, it gets juicier, because we discover that mirror, that dragon mirror that Lan Di stole, is actually a part of a set. After asking some of the locals, of course, Ryo locates the second mirror underneath his father's dojo. This one's called the Phoenix Mirror, and unlike the Dragon Mirror, which was just hidden under a tree, for whatever reason it's under this tree, the Phoenix Mirror is hidden extraordinarily well. It took me like 15 minutes to find it in this tiny room. But after we find the mirror, it's time for peak gaming. What do we want to do when we play games? Well, I know what I want to do. I want to get a 9-to-5 job as a forklift driver down at the harbour. And I mean it, we spend the next few hours of gameplay working a 9-to-5 job, earning money, trying to meet quotas. Move over, Farming Simulator, because we had Shenmue, Forklift Simulator. You will get revenge, but first you must drive forklift. But it's not all in vain, because as we work our blue-collar job, we start to learn more information about the Mad Angels. And then they sort of get wind that we're onto them, and they steal our love interest. They kidnap her. Hey! She's underage, you creep. I caught you. Absolutely busted. To rescue Nozomi, Ryo first has to have a fight with Guizhang, because nothing says friendship like beating up someone first. After the epic showdown, they joined forces to take down all 70 members of the Mad Angels gang. Yes, you heard me right, 70 people. We fight side by side and take them all down. And they very tactfully attack us one at a time. You know, they don't want to overwhelm us or anything. It's very kind of them, actually. If only one of those 70 dudes had a gun, it would have just been able to shoot Ryo and his friend right in the face. Once we finally defeat all 70 members of the gang, the boss, he admits Lan Di isn't here. He's left Japan already, and he's already on his way to Hong Kong, which I'm pretty sure we already knew, because not long before we were trying to buy tickets to Hong Kong, right? So, yeah. I'm glad we got to work at the docks for 6 hours of gameplay just to find out what we already knew. We then board the first boat to Hong Kong and roll credits. The story? It's great. I loved it. Yes, we have to ask 1,000 people where certain shops are or characters are. And yes, we never actually figure out any information for ourselves. Everything is directly told to us, just like the magical letter that we received telling us exactly who to talk to. And yes, the 5 work days of forklift driving, while iconic, is awful. When you play a title like Shenmue, you know you are in for a slower paced game, and honestly, that's the beauty of it. However, the flow of the story is very different from the start of the game than it is at the end of the game. And the first third is honestly really satisfying. It's very well paced. You get to sort of explore the town, talk to a lot of people and get to know them, do some side missions, all while uncovering more information about what happened that night our father was killed. And we don't want to forget mentioning these damn capsule machines. I spent hours at them trying to collect everything. The second third of the game, the pacing slows right down. A huge mechanic in Shenmue is the clock, and I would spend 20 to 30 minutes of real lifetime waiting for certain events to happen. It would be like 2 PM on a Thursday, and one of the NPCs would tell me, oh, meet me here tomorrow at 3 PM. So not only would you have to go find something to do or just stand still and wait for nighttime for you to sleep, but then you had to wait until 3 PM the next day. It's extremely tedious, and sadly for Shenmue 1, they never even thought about putting in some sort of time skip element into the game like they did in Shenmue 2 and 3. I did see a Reddit comment saying that that's the beauty of the game, so you can stop and smell the roses from time to time. Motherfucker, I only spent 10 hours at these Capsule toy machines. I've won 3 jackpots at the casino. I've gotten my fortune read. I've spoken to every NPC in the whole game. Don't you think I've had enough time to stop and smell the roses? And then the last third of the game, if you put aside the whole forklift fiasco, it's like it's on fast forward mode. Suddenly Ryo will skip whole sections of the map and fast travel from location to location somehow. It's like by the end of the game, even the developers were like, okay, we've made you stand around long enough doing nothing. Let's give you some time skips. Like I said before, Ryo has the personality of a peanut, but that's sort of perfect for his character. Most people, including myself, would just give up and become a drug addict if someone was murdered right in front of my face, but no, not Ryo. And Ryo's a really odd guy, like one of our friends, the hot dog salesman. He tells us that he's moving to America or Canada or something, and we're devastated. No, what? You're moving? No! Absolutely devastated. Yet our love interest Nozomi tells us she's moving to Canada, and we're just sort of like, yeah, cool. See ya. Like, come on, man. Stop stringing her along. You obviously don't like her, and she's in love with us. Just tell her you don't like her. Let her go, man. Let her be free. The supporting cast is probably where most of the personality comes from. Tom, the dancing hot dog salesman, again, able to teleport with ease. He's always in a great mood and ready to help. Fuku-san, our loyal and best friend, he always greets us with a big smile, and he really loves us, you can tell. Ini-san, our grandmother, who's actually our housekeeper, and we're not related to her at all, I don't think. She's always worried about us and telling us not to get hurt. It's very realistic. All of the baddies we come across, they're all very typical and Japanese style, very over the top. And then you have the old wise sensei, he's very typical, he's very good there. And then you have the little kids that are always like, Hatay! And then you have probably one of the most haunting characters of all time, Schmeagol! My precious! Now, as you can see, I'm playing the PlayStation 4 re-release of the game, so the graphics look pretty good. But if you have a look at the gameplay and the other games that were released at the time, Shenmue holds up incredibly well if you compare it to them. Especially the amount of detail you see within the town. Our home, the Hazuki residence, feels like a typical Japanese household. Drawers can be explored and real-life items seen, some of which can be interacted with. Ryo's bedroom, a typical Japanese teenage dwelling. Just don't open his drawer because you'll find his overused, extremely overused fleshlight. The little residential area of Sakuara Goraka, it's relatively bland, but it feels right. The little tiny general store that sells food and supplies. The little Capsule game out the front with its virtual fighter and Sonic the Hedgehog toys. The little town of Doeta, where we spend most of the game, is brimming with personality and life. The window shop fronts sell a story that this is a real life living town. And this was extremely rare for games back then, and still even really to this day, for game developers to make their little towns feel real and lived in, like you're actually visiting a real life area and you're seeing it happen in person. It's amazing. We have the docks. Yes, it looks incredibly realistic. A little bit confusing to navigate, a little bland, and yes, we do spend a lot of time here. It's the most important area in the game, arguably, but if I have to see one goddamn forklift again in a video game, I'm gonna have a panic attack. The subtle changes in the weather. One day it's snowing, the next is a normal sunny day, and the next a rainy day, where its residents will be seen with umbrellas. Santa Claus is there as well sometimes. It's incredibly horrifying. And I think that's why this game, although incredibly slow-paced at times, let's be honest, pretty much all the time it's slow paced, is still a very enjoyable experience. And it doesn't take us long as the player to get a sense that, yes, Ryo has lived in this area his whole life. And it's that sort of experience that you don't really feel in many video games. As you can see by the footage, Shenmue is a third-person real-life simulator game with some fighting and quick time events sprinkled in. The movement is very restrictive, and if you compare it to, say, most every other game in existence, you would say that it doesn't feel that great. Walking and running and even like getting into position to interact with something or talk to an NPC feels very, very awkward. They've also implemented some weird like first person mode where your hand just sort of sticks out like really far. You can sort of explore things off a shelf. It's very slow and you can't tell what you can and can't interact with, so you'll be trying to point down like, go pick that up, and your hand just like keeps moving back. It's so weird. Luckily, it doesn't really take away from the main experience at all, and it only takes an hour or so to get used to it, but it definitely leaves a lot to be desired. Yet somehow all that awkward movement adds to the charm of the game, honestly. There's two types of combat in the game, and one of them is the QuickTime events. Whether you succeed that QuickTime event or not will depend on how many buttons you successfully hit. But what I really like about Shenmue is if you fail a QuickTime event, you're not set back 100 hours of gameplay. You're set back right to the start of the QuickTime event, and it doesn't make it super tedious when you fail. It's a good thing that they implemented, and I'm glad they did. The second style is more like a fighting game like Virtual Fighter or Tekken, which makes sense because the creator of Shenmue, Ryo Hazuki, also created Virtual Fighter. The combat can be complicated if you want it to be. There are heaps of different moves you can learn if you want to master it. I just learnt one or two of the most powerful moves and just spanned them over and over again. Look, I know it's a little bit of a cop-out, but I honestly suck at fighting games. So if I wanted to keep my sanity, I sort of had to do that. Because the QuickTime events and combat happen so infrequently, it was always like a little reward when you came across a fighting section. And look, the fighting, it isn't perfect by any stretch of the imagination. Ryo would constantly get confused and end up looking the wrong way during a fight. But there was enough of a challenge during the fights, especially the boss fights, to keep it challenging and rewarding when you won. I honestly didn't expect to enjoy my time with Shenmue as much as I did. I was always super excited to go back and play it, even while I was doing those forklift missions. I know, it took me like 3 days of real life time to get to the courage to keep going, because I honestly didn't know. Having never played Shenmue before, I didn't know if there was going to be 5 days of forklift missions or 100. The little side missions you do, the small activities you can partake in, like the arcade games, for example, or the slot machines, they add a well-needed distraction to the main story. The combat can be as simple or as complex as you want it to be. Small areas you get to explore, they're very well made, and you can tell a lot of love and attention went into making the areas. Look, I wouldn't say that I'm a Shenmue cult member now, unfortunately, so don't come at me if you're a cult member. But I'll definitely be watching the anime they released, and honestly, if this video does well, I'll play and review Shenmue 2 and 3. It's if you want, so that's up to you, let me know. Alright, thank you very much for watching. Until next time, see ya.